Marvin, remember when mom and dad took away your favorite toy as a kid? Or when you broke up with your first girlfriend? Remember that feeling of anger, disappointment, maybe sadness? I keep vacillating back and forth between angry and disappointed. One thing I have yet to experience, though, is since it was announced that USC versus Notre Dame, that rivalry is done, is the feeling like some other USC fans are feeling, like USC got the last laugh. I haven't gotten there yet. I don't like Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. But there's a part of me right now that is stuck in the middle. And I want to ask you your opinion on how you've reacted when you heard the news. That's coming up next on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone, and welcome to Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, also the #1 sports podcast network. So whether you are watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, pick the platform. This show is free. This show appreciates your support. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Marvin, it happened. I didn't think it was going to happen. It happened. USC, Notre Dame, they both figured out a way to poke college football in the eye. They said, screw everything. You know, we're not going to play anymore. We're not going to play anymore during the regular season. Let me just cut to the chase. What was your immediate reaction when you heard the news?
Yeah, so I had my thoughts were all over the place, But listen, for me, in the last show, Mark, I told you, man, I'm a Trojans Trojan. Okay, this is who I am. 365. I don't like it. I love it. It's a part of who I am. Okay, being an SC alum, former player, former student. For those who don't know, my dad also played at USC. He played in the mid-'70s. He played for John McKay, all right? Yep. And growing up as a kid, all I heard about was playing Notre Dame, the 74 game where we came back 24-6, okay, winning Rose Bowls and winning national championships. That's what me and my dad talked about growing up. Notre Dame, Rose Bowls, and national championships. That's synonymous with USC, okay? Earlier today, I saw Keyshawn Johnson's take. Where he basically, that's emotional key. That's Trojan key. And again, for people who don't understand, before Key went to USC, he was a Trojan. He was a ball boy, water boy at USC during the days of Market Salad. Okay, neighborhood kid who grew up in USC community, loved USC. It's in his heart. All right. What you saw was him calling out Lincoln Riley, calling out Jen Cohen, and basically calling him soft. And upset because they don't understand that USC Notre Dame it's like peanut butter and jelly. It goes together. And it's just one of those situations where part of our identity is being Notre Dame's rival, being the team to go into South Bend and upset them. They come upset us. We've had streaks. Me personally, I went 3-1 against Notre Dame. Okay. I beat them 3 times out of 4 years. All right. My dad beat him a few times too. All right. I would have to believe that Jen and Lincoln genuinely do not understand what Notre Dame is to our school, that rivalry in that game. I couldn't imagine, McKay getting away from this. I couldn't imagine Pete Carroll getting away from this. I couldn't imagine, it blows my mind that we're going to play a football season and it's not going to include the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Listen, if you look at our history, they beat us like 50 times. We beat them like 35 times, right? They have a few more than us. But these have been epic games. These have been classic games. These have been phenomenal games. Lately, they've been kicking our butt. It is what it is. But that's what you have with rivalries. It breaks my heart, man. And it makes me feel like people in the building don't really understand our tradition and don't understand this, what this game means to USC Nation, to the community, to the diehards, and there are millions of them. All right. It was heartbreaking, man. I don't, people get so upset about how the game is changing today, right? With NIL and the transfer portal and these kids making all these crazy decisions. Well, these are adults. These are adults who are in control, who are supposed to understand, the traditions. And listen, traditions evolve, and I get all that, but not this. That we don't give up on this. Not like this, because you guys couldn't agree to, do we play week 0? Do we play mid-season? You play the game. You don't walk out of that room until we have that solidified. And honestly, I heard all the rumbles about, we might not play them. Honestly, I never bought into that. I never even thought this was even true. I thought this was something that would never happen. Okay, I thought it was more leverage and negotiation and that type of deal. But when I saw the headline today online, man, I realized that number one, for Lincoln Riley, you talked about making this the Mecca of college football. For Trojan fans, we kind of took that as beating Notre Dame as part of that. You know what I'm saying? We didn't think that meant we step over them. But you talk about the Mecca of college football, and Lincoln, this puts a lot more pressure on you now. You know what I'm saying? And it's just one of those situations where I need to hear what in the world what was the reasoning for just not.
I'm going to go into that more. We're going to go into that more in the second segment. But here's the reasoning. I mean, and it's not that you and I don't understand how college football has changed, and it's all about making the playoffs now. But there's more nuance involved in this, especially if the playoff format expands to 16 teams. USC. There's a segment of USC fans that's saying, well, until Notre Dame joins a conference and has to play 9 conference games and can't manipulate their schedule to be as soft as it is, yada, yada, yada. They see as Notre Dame getting preferential treatment. USC and Notre Dame it's always been that way. So it's almost like there has to be a villain here. It can't, and Notre Dame has to be the villain because they're not in a conference, and it affects the way why should USC be playing in a conference game every other year in October in South Bend, Indiana, where Notre Dame needs USC more than USC needs Notre Dame. That's not how it used to be. No, USC fans will never admit when USC was part of the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12 that they needed Notre Dame, because then they would say, well, we were playing in a weaker conference. No one is denying the Big Ten is a stronger conference, top to bottom, than the former Pac-10, 12, 8, whatever. But it's only stronger now because you brought in USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. Back in the day, USC fans, we used to laugh at the Big Ten. We used to laugh at the SEC for the way they scheduled their out-of-conference games, because when push came to shove and USC had to play them in the Rose Bowl or whatever, or in an out-of-conference game, guess who was winning that game more often than not? USC.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm with you. Let me ask you this, because you and I, again, I want to get into it more in the second segment. You brought up Keyshawn. He went nuclear on Lincoln Riley and USC. Yeah. Rodney had a little bit more of a measured response, much like yours. He grew up hating Notre Dame. It's one of the reasons why he chose to go to USC to play in this rivalry game. So he's disappointed, but he also understands the direction that the game is going now, because you got to make the playoffs. Here's the thing, and again, I'll touch on it more in the next segment. We know the playoff format is going from 12 to 16 teams sooner rather than later. I think there's going to be an automatic qualifier stipulation as well, whether it's the big conference and the SEC get 4 or 8 or 4 or 5 automatic qualifiers. Again, that shouldn't affect the USC Notre Dame game. I'm sure you've been talking to your friends, former players, people who are close to the situation.
Yeah.
What's the general consensus about how this went down, what went down? We know how Keyshawn and Rodney Pete and how you feel.
Yeah.
You don't have to bring up names.
No.
But how are you feeling about this?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I've already had a few conversations with people who played at SC who absolutely shared Keyshawn's sentiments. They probably wouldn't have hit send on the video, but you know something? Keyshawn's a legend. He's the best receiver we've ever had. So when we talk about the great players, we talk about Keyshawn Johnson, and he has a right to say how he feels and voice it. Again, that's emotional key, but I also think, when he calming down, he's still pissed off. That's just what it is. I wonder, like how many USC Trojans we have in the building of the adults, administrators. I know we just hired Marcus Allen for a role. We're happy about that. I know we have Mike Williams on staff. But I'm wondering, how many real other Trojans out there in that building? Listen, I know Chad and Janet and Lincoln are really trying to get our program going. They've done a great job overall, but this is a failure. They not being able to get this game played. There's no player from USC that's happy about this. No, there's no former player that's happy that we're not going to be playing Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? That's just not what it is. We accept the Big Ten schedule and we keep our rivalry. You know what I'm saying? It's when you hear coaches get hired, a lot of times the first thing they'll say in their press conference is, we got to beat the rival. And we got to beat whoever it is, right? And that tells you they understand how important this is. And I feel like with Notre Dame, I feel like we're looking at, this new age approach to how to go about winning. And it's just, listen, we want to win the national championship. That's the goal. That's the standard. That's what I grew up understanding. And that happens through Notre Dame, not around Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? Notre Dame's a part of that process. So trust me, listen, whether you won against Notre Dame or lost against Notre Dame, you understand the rivalry. You love the rivalry. You love to hate them. And you look forward to that game. That's a huge game at USC. These players, the players, they get it. The players know what this means to us. So for the adults in the building, for the adults who will run the show, and I'm talking to USC and Notre Dame, because Notre Dame, apparently they already had a backup plan.
Their contingency plan was out there 5 minutes after the news broke.
Listen, they may have been bluffing because, as far as I'm concerned, they're trying to maintain a weak schedule. You know what I'm saying? We gave them an opportunity to play us. They didn't want to make it happen for week 0, regardless of whatever the rules are, how that works out. Apparently, there was an opportunity for us to play. There was a date set. They didn't want to do that, but they try to operate like they own the show. They think they're the princesses of the situation. They want to have their cake and eat it too, which is why they're out the playoffs now. That's another story. Listen, just talking to a couple guys, man. This is a sad day in Trojan football. It is, man. It's you feel like a part of you is gone, and I just now we're talking about we can't play them again just because of how the schedule works until 2030.
That's rivalry's dead. They will not start this up again in 2030. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
No, something, Mark. I'm gonna tell you something right now. I am betting you that the alums who are part of our process, who are involved with USC football, are going to demand that we get. I'm surprised the network, the NBC didn't do something about this, but the game's coming back. The game is coming back. I think that Jen and Lincoln knew what it was when they walked out that room and said, "Okay, we're not going to play." But I don't think they really realized that people like Key was going to come out there and come for them like the way he did. And I get it. You know what I'm saying? I do. I mean, the frustration. It's just, what is to me? What does this say to our guys? You know what I'm saying? Like you got recruited understanding about this rivalry. That was part of the whole situation. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a very disappointing day, man. And as a player, as a guy who's been out there on that field in South Bend, touchdown Jesus. I mean, it hurts, man. It does. It hurts because I
but you know what, Marvin? None of that, Marvin. None of how you feel, your feelings, they don't matter, because all that matters now going forward is making the playoffs. Everything else doesn't matter. Just win games. Just stack up wins. Make the playoffs. Just do what Notre Dame's doing. Make your schedule as easy as possible.
Yeah, that's not, listen, I take pride in beating real teams. I take pride in the fact that we are absolutely now in the most competitive and the best conference in the nation. I take pride in the fact that being in the Big Ten, we had that Big Ten schedule and went undefeated at home. And now what I'm realizing is Lincoln, you just put a lot of pressure on yourself, man. You know what I'm saying? You really did, because if we are trying to avoid them for an easier path, then my man, this year we got to get something done. We got to get something done. I mean, I'm not at the or bust stage, but we got to get something done this year, especially if we're not playing Notre Dame, who will be a very good team next year. So. This is like I said, man, it really rocked my world. I didn't believe I never bought into it wasn't going to happen. I thought that was just hype, like I said, man. So the fact that they pulled the trigger on this, and you figure the only times we haven't played them was during a pandemic, and then
World War II.
World War II. but now we're not going to play. And the reason is because of we couldn't agree on a date, but there was an opportunity to play the game. Jen Cohen and Lincoln Riley on their first day, the first thing out of their mouth should have been and beat Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? Like that and it's just you wonder if they're looking at, like I said, this, you know, the map to the championship and the easier path or whatever it may be. I don't know, man. And at the end of the day, you know, we win the national championship. Are we still gonna be mad about Notre Dame? Yep, I would, because again, for me, it's part of the process, man. So it's been a tough day, man. It's been tough to try to go through this and just kind of figure out, you know, what does this really mean? You know, so it's hard, Mark. It's hard, Mark.
Like I said, I keep going back and forth between being really ticked off at the situation. I'm not mad at USC, mad at Notre Dame. I'm mad at the situation and the people who allowed it to get to this. And it's not in people specific. It's more in the ubiquitous, term of things. Just the people allowed this to happen. And again, we can talk about the college football playoff selection committee, the NCAA, the Big Ten conference people in charge, the people at USC, the people at Notre Dame. There's plenty of blame to go around. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that they're responsible for this and how many people are being affected, especially the fans. And I know there's going to be a lot of bravado out there. Screw Notre Dame. They deserve it. Yada, yada, yada. Stop it. If USC was beating Notre Dame on a more regular basis, no USC fan is making those comments. They want Notre Dame on the schedule if USC was winning more frequently. That's the bottom line. You and I both know this fan base like the back of our hand. They go whichever way the wind's blowing. And right now the wind is blowing. Oh, let's blame Notre Dame. USC has a part in this. I'm going to talk about that more in the next segment. And in the third segment, we got some more players re-signing. But I also need to get you I need to get your opinion on the whole defensive coordinator situation. That's all coming up next.
Right.
NFL Sundays move really fast. One big play, suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every single highlight moment. And live betting is actually best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, momentum flips after a turnover. When that happens, FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. And if you like to play it up big with those player prop bets, those update as quickly as the guys are heating up. You can bet next touchdown scored, drive results, the totals, a whole bunch more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast. So can you. All right, Marvin, give me a couple minutes here. I'm going to go on a soliloquy here. I want to kind of lay out the words from Coach Riley because you brought it up. But first, I want to say thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. For my everydayers who listen to the show, who listen to Locked On USC on their favorite podcast platform, since you already live USC every day, here's a chance for you to kind of level up. Go ad-free. You can join the Everydayers Club. And you can get Locked On USC with no interruptions. You're going to get the members-only Discord access, and you're actually going to get some more features and benefits on top of that. You get it all for just $5 a month, $50 a year. If you want more information, see the link in the show's description page. All right. When the playoff expands to 16 teams, I need somebody to explain to me with crayons, pretend I'm 4 years old, why this rivalry game got canceled. Let me just set this up. Back in July, during Big Ten Media Days, I asked Coach Riley about the USC Notre Dame rivalry. I asked him about the significance of it to college football, not just to USC and Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And also, does it matter when the game is played during the schedule? Here's the answer. Quote, when it's played, I don't think so. That's something we'll always look at, I think depending on what happens here from a playoff perspective, do we expand? What playoff model do we go to? That can certainly have an impact, not only in the rivalry, but what time of year you would potentially play it. Coach Riley then kind of quickly diverted the story to about when Bob Stoops gave him the offensive coordinator position at Oklahoma. He said his very first thought, Marvin, was, I get to coach in the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry game. I mean, before he called his dad, before he called his wife, that was the first thing that popped into his head. I'm coaching in one of the greatest rivalries in college football. Same thing. He said that when he took the USC job that night, his first thought was, I'm going to be coaching in USC versus Notre Dame. He said, and he continued at Big Ten Media Days, all these rivalries mean a great deal to me. They mean a great deal to anybody that cares about college football. Do I want to play the game? Hell yeah, absolutely. It's one of the reasons I came to USC. You and I, we've talked about this. But anytime you use the word but, you're about to contradict everything you just said. He continued. Also, my allegiance and my loyalty is not to Notre Dame or anyone else. I'm the head football coach at USC, and I'm going to back USC, and I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make USC as good as I can. And I'm not going to let anything stand in between that. So I'm very hopeful that we can get to the point where it makes sense. We knew it. You could see it. You could smell it back in July. It was going to happen. Yeah. It's mentioned that USC plays in the conference and Notre Dame doesn't. The implication being that when this game played does matter. So it's obvious he wants to see the automatic qualifier playoff model. And we're going to get some version of that. And he wants to see that in order to preserve the non-conference games that matter. So, okay, all that's understood, Marvin, right? Let's say USC actually made the offer to play Notre Dame week 0. Let's just say they did, and Notre Dame declined. I don't know, was that really a good faith offer on USC's part? Reason being, if you want to play week 0, there's some stipulations. Number one, you have to be playing it in a foreign country like Ireland or Brazil or Mexico, something like that. Or you've got to be playing at Hawaii. And then there's also those kickoff classic games where you need to get a special NCAA waiver approval. I don't know if USC went through those steps. I do know that USC allowed the Big Ten to represent them when this, everything was going down at the meeting, saying, everybody's being represented. This is Notre Dame's situation because they're not in the conference. As long as they finish in the top 12, they're automatically in. So USC's coming from, well, what if we beat Notre Dame, but they still jump us and make the playoffs and we don't get to make the playoffs? So I just don't know if it was really a serious offer, because they know that Notre Dame couldn't accept the offer. Number one.
Well, yeah. The bigger issue, the issue mark is, and you just said it, Lincoln's own words. What he's saying is, yeah, I understand your traditions and I want to, and that's all good. I get to coach against the Notre Dame team, but his commitment is to USC, meaning my job is to get them to the championship. And if I can create a path, an easier path for us to get there, that's what's important. Making the playoffs and winning the championship. And to me, that's what I get from what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? I do.
Here's the thing. We play 9 conference games. The SEC is now playing 9 conference games in 2026, and they are mandating that they play one out of conference game against a Power 4 team. So someone from the Big 10, ACC, Big 12. Why is USC going the opposite direction?
Well, he said it.
Don't give me the lip service and then not back it up. Don't tell me you love me, but you won't put your arms around me.
Right. Yeah. So again, I just take it as, his commitment, his job is to get us in the playoffs, and then from there go compete for the championship. And if he can create an easier path to get there, however that means, then that's what he's going to do. That's how I take it. And to me, today, as I see how we're now not playing Notre Dame, I see what he said then coming to fruition. This is where we're at. I think in his mind, this makes us, makes it easier for us to get to the playoffs. But again, it puts pressure on him now. All right, so now you have, again, one less big dog opponent. And Notre Dame's a big dog, okay? There are rivals and they're a big dog in the national landscape. Right? So It's Mark. It's a new day, man. It's a new day. Lincoln is a younger coach, different approach. We all know that already. This isn't Bob Stoops. This isn't Nick Saban in that sense. You know what I'm saying? He has a different mentality, and we're just seeing it play out. You know what I mean? There has been success in this approach that he has, without question. There has, but again. Notre Dame by itself, forget the recruiting class that we have, forget undefeated at home, forget all that stuff, beating UCLA. I mean, the fact that he agreed to not play Notre Dame blows my mind. And I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know that any other coach, because I think Sark and I think that Kiffin, I think that Carroll, I think Ted Toner and Robinson, they knew the tradition. They know what USC is about. You know what I mean? There's no way in the world that any of them coaches would have ever said or allowed this day to happen. And I can't get past that. You know what I mean? I can't get past that. So,
like I said, go ahead. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it's like, and he gave us a heads up, in what you were just reading. He gave us a heads up as to what's on his mind and what he's trying to do. And if you didn't understand it then, you understand it today.
Like I said, I just can't wrap my head around the whole, when you put the whole puzzle together. You're playing in the big conference. You elected to play there. You knew you were going to be increasing your travel. You did it because you wanted to get a bigger check. You basically doubled the money you were making in the Pac-12 conference from the TV contracts. You take that. But also when you play or you coach at USC, part of the job is you're playing against Notre Dame every year. Mm-hmm. Period. That's in the fine print. You just got to look at the contract. It's right there in black and white. So you take all that into consideration, and then that the out-of-conference games really don't matter anymore, especially when you go to a 16-team playoff format. If USC cannot find themselves to be one of the top 16 teams in the country, first of all, you don't belong in the playoffs. Second of all, if you're concerned about losing to Notre Dame, I'm afraid USC is losing part of their identity.
100%.
I just don't think when you add everything up, this is the thing that you had to sacrifice to get to the playoffs. Yeah. I can't. When I add up 1 + 1 + 1, and you get to 3, all of a sudden you're like, well, why are we still at 2? I've got all the factors involved here. Where am I coming up short? Well, Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference, and they have an easier path to the playoffs. So we're not going to be their huckleberry, so to speak. Right. We're not going to be the big win on their schedule that they need in the middle of the season, because they can't get a marquee game in the middle of the season. Everybody can get a marquee game at the beginning of the season. All I'm concerned about when it comes from USC's perspective is throwing this narrative out there and then finding out, that wasn't exactly 100% accurate. And that's happened before with USC, and I just don't want to continue to see it happen. That's all.
Yeah. I can't. I don't know the details of all that stuff, Mark. But I can tell you like this: the bottom line, the net of it is, we're not playing Notre Dame. So to me, there's nothing you could tell me to justify why we're not playing Notre Dame. And I don't want to hear that. And if their offer to Notre Dame wasn't genuine, then that's probably part of their plan anyway. Because they, apparently. They might not have wanted to play Notre Dame out the gate once they hired Lincoln. I don't know.
Exactly. I hope that's not the case, but we're going to give the benefit of the doubt. All right, we got one more segment, Marvin. We can dwell on this for a long time. Trust me.
Mark, no, we're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. You know what we need to do? Focus. We need to win games. Now we need to win games. Yes. Now next, there's nothing to talk about. Now we need to win games. We need to be. We can go to. I don't want to ramble. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, we're going to talk about winning games and how maybe winning games will be a lot easier if the defense gets a little bit better. And that's the angle I'm taking, kind of the segue into the next segment. It's coming up next. Okay, so we got some more free agent signings. Players resigning who are already on the roster. The latest 5 to join in. We're now up to 36 players. I went over this on Monday's episode, Marvin. We talked about it. If you missed that episode, go check it out. But here's 5 more names you can add to it. We're now up to 36 guys resigning. Eli Newby at linebacker, Kalen Miller at offensive line, Corey Sims, the wide receiver, Cash Jacobson, the defensive tackle, and also offensive lineman center Willie Washer. The two names we haven't heard yet that I'm counting on: Elijah Page, Alani Noah, and I'll throw a third name in there, Husan Longstreet, the backup quarterback. I got to be honest, Marvin. The novelty of this whole re-signing thing, it's kind of starting to wear off on me. It's getting old.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the staff already knows who's staying and who's leaving. So this is all for show and tell, trying to pump up the
circumstances. Yeah.
I want to ask you this question though about the defensive coordinator job. Is this lingering too long? Like kind of like these re-signing announcements. At this point, doesn't someone have to give the vote of confidence for D'Anton Lynn, or just say we're moving on? I mean, this thing's been kind of radio silence for a week.
Right. I guess, like I said, on the last show, I think the bigger issue is, he's made the decision, obviously, to go to Penn State. He wants to go to Penn State. That's all good. And now it's almost as if the deal might not get done, so he may come back. I don't think after this long of him already assigned to be somewhere else, we're recruiting for 2027. We're getting ready for a bowl game. We're going to be looking at transfers coming in, talking to these guys. He needs to go at this point. They need to figure that out. Again, this is a destination spot. This is where coaches come because we get elite athletes. This is where coaches want to come because we're in LA. This is where coaches want to come because we have the tradition, we have the wins, the Heisman, so on and so forth. We have that. This is a place where NFL coaches want to come to, other coaches at elite schools. So yeah, D'Anton needs to go ahead and be blessed and just move on. We're thankful for what he's done. He definitely has had a positive impact on our D and our program. But listen, honestly, we can get somebody as good or better, and that's not going to be an issue for us. So at this point, the stench, the curiosity, are you with me or are you not? Do you want to be with me or be with the next dude? I mean, it's a horrible thing to have to go through, I think. And for USC, we deserve better than that. Because at the end of the day, if he doesn't get the job at Penn State, then he's settling to be back at USC. No, we're better than that. We're not that school.
What it's really coming down to, I think, why it's taking so long is USC there's a buyout, and they're saying Penn State pay it, and Dan's probably saying, hey, can you lower the buyout a little bit? There's just a bunch of negotiations going on right now.
Yeah, but something, when he agreed to the contract to take the money, the number for the buyout was already in there. You know what I mean? So they knew what it was. Him and his agent already had agreed to this. And you should have known all things come to an end. So at some point, that buyout number was going to be real. It was going to be thrown at somebody. Penn State, if you want him, write the check.
Right. Like you said, like we're talking about. At this point, the fact that Lincoln Riley hasn't come out and just said with a very firm voice, that's my DC. He's going to be coaching the guys in 2026. He hasn't made that comment. In fact, his last comment when I asked him the question after practice last week was, hey, this isn't the same program it was 2 years ago. It's not the same program it was 4 years ago. We're in a better place now. Right. We can get there are coaches who want to come here. In other words, he was saying, hey, if Lynn doesn't want to be here, we'll find someone better.
Right.
That was the answer. And the fact that nobody's come out, including Coach Lynn, and said, hey, I'm here. This is where I want to be. It kind of leads you to believe that, all right, well, pee or get off the pot. Cut bait.
Yeah, and it's just, having to go through this, during bowl prep, it's as bad as, these guys who transfer out at the end of the season. We have a calendar issue. College football has to do a better job of determining when guys can transfer, when guys can leave to go to a new job, the whole interview process. This is just sloppy. It just looks bad. You know what I mean? And, in football,
NCAA, you're saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, in football, you preach family. You know what I mean? You preach family hard in football. And, this type of stuff, it's ugly family stuff. You know what I mean? So they got to fix that calendar situation, especially as it's impacting these kids in bowl prep.
Yeah, like I said, it's odd the way this thing is going down. And typically when you don't hear a lot of positive stuff about the guy you already have on staff returning, and you really don't hear anything, I think it's safe to assume that he's probably not going to be the defensive coordinator next year. And I'm hoping USC already has their contingency plan in place, just like Notre Dame did, The second that they say, all right, D'Anton Lynn, he's moving on, he's going back home to Penn State, his alma mater, we're bringing on Pete Kwiatkowski, Texas's old defensive coordinator. Look at this resume. The dude's always got a top 25 defense. Let's roll.
Yeah, I have complete confidence in Chad Bowden because I'm sure he has a role in this. And just looking how he's handled business since he's gotten here, I have complete confidence that he'll be a part of a search and they'll get the right guy.
Yeah, no, look, I know it seems like we're coming across as anti-Lincoln Riley, anti-Jen Cohen.
No,
I don't want it to be that way. We're talking about one specific thing as it relates to this rivalry. Do they really, truly understand how important it is, not just to, making the playoffs, to the fabric of USC? It's part of the DNA. I wrote an article that showed up Monday at wearesc.com. What if USC and Notre Dame never played? What if that never came to fruition? I have no doubt, I have zero doubt that USC would have ended up being a regional power. Would they have ended up being that national power? Would they have that same cachet? Do you get to 11 national championships without having Notre Dame on your schedule? How many of those Heismans happened because you had that Heisman moment in that Notre Dame game? You talked about it. You won 3 out of your 4 games and how much it meant to you. And when you played at USC, it wasn't the greatest of times.
Right. Yeah. But I'm proud to say I was on the team that beat Lou Holtz in the Coliseum, his last regular season game.
There you go. Yeah. It has meaning. There's significance. Yeah. So I love what Jen Cohen's done so far since she's arrived.
Me too.
I think Lincoln Riley has this program on the right path. I might not agree with everything, the way he's doing it, but that's fine. I'm not asking for him to be fired. I'm just asking for, hey, let's respect a little bit more of what USC was before you got here. I don't want to lose that identity. That's it. And you and I both understand it's about making the playoffs. We get it. Totally understand that. I just don't think you need to cut off your nose to spite your face to get there. That's all. That's all.
Mark, listen, again, growing up, my understanding of USC was Notre Dame, Rose Bowls, and national championships. That's what I thought about when I thought about USC. So
now you need to change that order up. It's playoffs, and everything else.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I'll get there someday, I'm sure. Hopefully, one day you can pull me across the finish line. This one, though, like I said, I maybe because, and I hate to say I expected it, I anticipated this rivalry to continue. It was just a huge, huge, huge letdown to have this come out. And you couldn't wait till after the holidays. You couldn't wait till after the holidays to ruin it. You had to throw that bah humbug at everybody.
Right.
Some fans, they love it. I can't get there. Just look, I hate Notre Dame as much as everybody else for many of the same reasons why everybody else hates Notre Dame. That doesn't mean I don't respect the hell out of them and respect the rivalry. And there's a difference. There's a difference. When somebody kicks my butt, I'm going to respect the person who kicked my butt as long as they did it fair and square.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
All right, Marvin. Thank you again. Merry Christmas. One more time. I'm not going to dwell on the USC Notre Dame for much longer. There's so much positive stuff going on. We'll talk more about it. But yeah, this is my Festivus. It's my airing of the grievances right now. So I've grabbed the Festivus poll and I got to keep going until I get it out of my system or until people can convince me otherwise. Mark, USC's doing the right thing. And I'm just not sure they're there. All right, man. I will have you back on soon again. To what we do around here. Everybody loves you. We're going to keep bringing you back. Merry Christmas, everyone. Until the next episode of Locked on USC.
Fight on, y'all. Happy holidays.
There you go.